The man stopped at the bottom of the weathered wooden steps and shifted the little girl sleeping on his back before removing his old cowboy hat. Dust covered his boots, his beard had gone weeks without trimming, and exhaustion showed in every line across his face. He had traveled from one ranch to another for nearly a month, asking for work, but every answer had been the same. Some wanted younger men. Others refused to hire someone carrying a child everywhere he went. A few simply closed the door before he could finish speaking. His name was Ethan Cole, and the little girl clinging to him was his 4-year-old daughter, Lily, the only family he had left after his wife died during a fever outbreak. Since that day, Ethan had promised himself one thing. No matter how hungry they became or how hard life turned, he would never abandon his daughter. That promise had cost him jobs, friendships, and every dollar he once owned, but it was the only promise he refused to break. The farmhouse in front of him looked different from the others. It was old but carefully maintained, surrounded by wide fields that stretched farther than the eye could see. Horses grazed behind white fences, and workers moved through the barns carrying supplies. Ethan had heard the owner needed extra hands after 2 ranch workers suddenly left. He climbed the steps slowly and knocked. After several seconds, the door opened, revealing a woman in a blue dress with calm but guarded eyes. She folded her arms and looked Ethan up and down without saying a word. Her name was Clara Bennett, the owner of the ranch and one of the wealthiest women in the county. Since her husband's death years earlier, she had managed everything herself, earning respect from some people and resentment from others who believed a woman had no place running such a large ranch. "What do you want?" she asked. "I'm looking for work," Ethan answered quietly. "Any work. I'll repair fences, care for horses, haul supplies, anything you need." Clara studied him again before her eyes settled on Lily. "And the little girl?" "My daughter. You bring her everywhere." "I don't have anyone else." Clara remained silent for several long moments before speaking words Ethan never expected to hear. "I don't need another ranch hand." His shoulders dropped. He had heard that sentence too many times already. He tipped his hat politely and turned to leave. Then Clara added, "What I want, is a daughter." Ethan froze. He slowly turned back, convinced he had misunderstood. "What did you say?" "I said I want a daughter." He stared at her in complete confusion. She stepped onto the porch and looked directly at Lily, who had just begun rubbing sleep from her eyes. Something softened in Clara's expression, but only for a moment before she hit it again. "I've spent years building this ranch," she said. "I have land, livestock, money, and workers. But every evening this house feels empty. I was never able to have children." Ethan listened without interrupting. "I'll make you an offer," Clara continued. "Stay here and work for me. I'll pay you fairly, give you a place to live, and make sure your daughter never goes hungry." Relief rushed across Ethan's face. "But," Clara said, "there's one condition." His smile faded. "I want Lily to become part of my family." Silence settled between them. Ethan looked at his daughter, who wrapped her tiny arms tighter around his neck, unaware of the conversation unfolding around her. "I don't understand," he whispered. "I don't mean today," Clara replied. "Think of it as an adoption, eventually. I'll give her everything I have one day. Education. A future. A home she'll never lose." Ethan's heart pounded. "You want me to give you my daughter?" "I want to give her a better life than you can." The word struck him harder than any punch. Every father fears hearing the truth that he cannot provide enough. Ethan knew he had no money, no home, and no certainty about tomorrow. Yet hearing another person say it aloud filled him with anger and shame. "I didn't come here to sell my child. I never said you were selling her." "It sounds exactly like that." Clara didn't argue. Instead, she quietly said, "Children deserve stability. Can you honestly promise her that?" Ethan opened his mouth but couldn't answer. Because he couldn't. The previous night, Lily had gone to sleep hungry. 2 nights before that, they had slept inside an abandoned barn while rain leaked through the roof. His silence spoke louder than words. Clara noticed it. "I lost my husband," she said softly. "I know what loneliness feels like. I also know what it's like to wake up every day wishing someone would call you mother." Ethan looked away. "This isn't a decision you have to make now," Clara continued. "Take the job. Stay here for a while. If, after some time, you still believe Lily belongs only with you, then no one will force you." Her offer sounded reasonable. Yet something inside Ethan refused to relax. He accepted the work but rejected the condition. "For now," he said firmly, "I'm only your ranch hand." Clara nodded without another word. Over the following days, Ethan worked harder than anyone on the ranch. Before sunrise he repaired broken fences, trained difficult horses, lifted heavy supplies, and never complained. At night he carried Lily through the ranch, telling her stories until she fell asleep. The workers quickly noticed something unusual. No matter how exhausted Ethan became, his patience with Lily never disappeared. He washed her clothes by hand, braided her messy hair the best he could despite having no idea how, and always made sure she ate before he touched his own food. Clara watched everything from a distance. She had expected Ethan to grow comfortable with her offer. Instead, every act of love between father and daughter made her realize that separating them might be far more difficult than she had imagined. Still, one question refused to leave her mind. If Ethan loved Lily this deeply, then why did fate bring them to her doorstep at exactly the moment she had almost given up on ever having a family? Neither of them knew that someone else on the ranch had been quietly listening to every conversation, and that hidden secret was about to change all three of their lives forever. The man who had been secretly listening was Caleb Turner, the ranch foreman. He had worked for Clara's late husband for nearly 20 years, and although everyone trusted him, he had begun quietly stealing livestock and selling supplies through a group of dishonest traders from a neighboring town. When Ethan arrived, Caleb saw him as nothing more than another desperate worker who would soon leave. But after overhearing Clara's offer about Lily, he realized something dangerous. If Ethan earned Clara's complete trust, Caleb's own secrets would eventually be exposed. From that day forward, he decided that Ethan had to disappear before that could happen. He began spreading small lies among the workers, claiming Ethan was only staying because he hoped to inherit Clara's property through his daughter. Some believed him, others did not, but Ethan ignored every whisper. His attention remained on Lily, who had slowly begun smiling again after weeks of hardship. She laughed while feeding the horses, picked wildflowers around the ranch house, and even started calling Clara, Miss Clara, with innocent affection. Clara found herself growing attached despite trying not to. She had wanted a daughter, but the more she watched Ethan and Lily together, the more she realized that what she admired most was not the child alone but the unbreakable bond between father and daughter. Even so, she still believed Lily could have a better future if she stayed with her forever. One afternoon, while Ethan repaired a broken fence on the far side of the property, Lily wandered toward the old barn chasing a small white kitten. Caleb noticed her disappear inside. Instead of calling her back, he quietly shut the large wooden doors from the outside and walked away. Minutes later smoke began rising from the barn. A lantern had been knocked over near dry hay, and flames spread with frightening speed. Workers shouted as black smoke filled the sky. Clara ran from the house in horror when she heard someone scream that a little girl was trapped inside. Ethan dropped his tools and sprinted faster than anyone had ever seen. Without waiting for help, he kicked open the burning doors and rushed into the thick smoke. The roof groaned as burning beams crashed around him, but he refused to stop calling Lily's name. Finally, through the smoke, he heard her frightened cry. He found her hiding beneath a wooden wagon, terrified and unable to move. Wrapping her tightly in his arms, Ethan covered her with his own body and fought his way back toward the entrance. Just as they reached the doorway, part of the roof collapsed behind them. The workers pulled them outside seconds before the entire barn was consumed by flames. Ethan's arms were badly burned, his face blackened with soot, but the first thing he whispered was, "Is Lily safe?" Clara knelt beside them with tears running down her face. For the first time since her husband's death, she cried openly. Watching Ethan risk his own life without hesitation shattered every belief she had held. She finally understood that no amount of wealth, comfort, or security could ever replace a parent's unconditional love. As Ethan slowly regained consciousness later that evening, Clara entered the small room where the ranch doctor had treated him. Lily refused to leave her father's side, clutching his hand while asleep in a chair beside the bed. Clara looked at them for a long moment before quietly saying, "I owe you an apology." Ethan looked up, confused. Clara continued, "When you first arrived, I thought a child needed the richest home. Today I learned the richest home is wherever a loving parent is willing to risk everything." Ethan remained silent. "I will never ask you to give me your daughter again," she said. "I was wrong." Tears filled Ethan's tired eyes. Clara smiled gently before adding, "But if you'll allow it, I'd still like to become part of her life. Not as her mother, but as the family both of you deserve." Before Ethan could answer, the sheriff arrived with unexpected news. Another ranch worker had confessed that Caleb had locked Lily inside the barn and had been stealing from the ranch for months. Evidence hidden in Caleb's cabin proved every accusation. He was arrested before sunrise, ending years of betrayal that Clara had never suspected. Weeks passed, and peace slowly returned to the ranch. Ethan's burns healed, Lily's laughter echoed across the fields again, and Clara no longer viewed them as people passing through but as family by choice instead of obligation. She offered Ethan a permanent position managing the ranch, a comfortable home on the property, and a fair partnership in the business. Ethan accepted, not because he needed charity but because he had finally found a place where his daughter could grow without fear. Clara kept her promise. She never tried to replace Lily's father, yet she celebrated every birthday, taught Lily to read, helped braid her hair before church, and stood beside them during every important moment. Years later, visitors to the Bennett Ranch often wondered why the little girl happily called one adult Dad and the other Aunt Clara. Those who knew the truth simply smiled, because they understood something many people never learn in a lifetime. A real family is not built by money, paperwork, or loneliness. It is built by sacrifice, trust, forgiveness, and love freely given without expecting anything in return. Ethan had arrived asking for nothing more than honest work. Clara believed she was searching for a daughter. In the end, neither received what they thought they wanted. Instead, they found something far greater, a family that fate created not by taking a child from her father, but by giving three lonely hearts a place where they all finally belonged. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and share. Subscribe to the channel for more emotional and unforgettable stories. And tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? Red Heart Cowboy Hat Face.